Hello Ratbags, it's Jade. Welcome to a Access show today, taking a look at Stranded Deep. Brand new news about what's happening with the Xbox and PlayStation versions of this survival game. Will we see it before the end of 2019? I do think we will, based on the new news. I'm going to show you something pretty exciting. If you don't know, Stranded Deep was meant to have come to console last year. The game's been in early access and in development for nearly 7 years on PC, and it's finally made its way to console last year. But literally only a few days after announcing the game and a release date with a trailer, Telltale Games started to act all funny and started to go out of business. Over the next 6 weeks, confusion was reigning. Telltale started letting people go, and they really didn't seem to gonna be in a good state. Beam Team Games were kind of left in limbo, the creators of Stranded Deep. And it wasn't really until the release date and the store page on Xbox and PlayStation really went past that everyone realised the game wasn't actually going to make it or come out. They couldn't carry on publishing the game because the company was no longer working or functioning, so Xbox and PS4 would not release the finished product. It was completely done in their eyes. Although the game is still very much a case of needing updates to keep it on parity with PC, they were doing what they was doing with 7 Days to Die and releasing it as a fully working finished game. This is pretty substantial, and this is something I've covered over the last year, keeping you guys up to date with the whole saga of how these developers, Beam Team Games, managed to secure their rights back to their own game and have had a great success in getting it back on consoles so that everyone can enjoy what I think is going to be a pretty decent survival game. You're looking at footage from the very first alpha 6 years ago. This was pretty much development build even, and just outlines the core concepts. A raft, sharks, and you're going to get yourself munched if you're not careful. They've fleshed the game out considerably since then. There's procedurally generated islands to explore. Every time you load up a world of Stranded Deep, you're going to have a brand new experience, fighting off wildlife, dealing with the forces of nature, and making sure you've got enough resources, food and water to keep you surviving. Now, to their credit, Beam Team kept the players involved as much as possible, updating quite frequently, and despite going a few months without communication at various points throughout the next year, they really have done a lot more than, say, 7 Days to Die developers Fun Pimps. You can check out more information about what's going on with console updates for that game in the video I've got in the description box down below and in the comment section. Well, basically, Telltale Games' collapse really left Stranded Deep and 7 Days to Die in tricky situations. Stranded Deep would go on though to finally get their game on console. How did they do that, and is it a game that we're going to actually enjoy? It was in February that they stated they were looking to do all they could to bring the game to consoles, and a few months later in May they announced that they had secured the rights back for Stranded Deep. The rights for the game had been part of a sale taken by creditors Sherwood Partners. They had dealt with pretty much most of the Telltale assets that weren't bought up originally in November. According to the new owners of the Telltale Games IP and company, they bought a whole bunch of rights back in November, and any rights they didn't buy got reverted back to their previous owners. It was only in April though that these auctions took place, and Stranded Deep did manage to secure the rights back. With the help of a smaller independent publisher, they committed to bringing it to console once again. Now, the game is still in early access. As I said, when it comes to Xbox and PlayStation, it will be a finished product. It's not going to be part of the game preview, and as you know, PlayStation don't have a game preview program. Very much like Ark Survival Evolved was, you can expect updates to keep it on parity with PC, but it's also looking likely that the PC version will also go gold in the next 6 to 9 months. And I imagine that when PC gets stable updates, they'll filter through to the console, much like it has worked in the past for 7 Days to Die and other games like Ark and Conan. You guys can see I've spent a lot of time researching this. I've kept you guys up to date over the last year with a bunch of different videos giving you all this information in the past. But now we're getting closer and closer, and with the new news that they've put their own website in place with no mention of Telltale Games, it really is going to be happening very soon. They've tweeted in the last few months that they have got it all working. It's just taken a bit of extra time getting things outside of their control. They've had to resubmit the game through the same processes on Xbox and PlayStation that they did the first time, but without any relation to Telltale Games. They've achieved this by getting help from the original porting team that ported the PC version to Xbox and PlayStation last year, Fun Labs. Effectively, the game was complete and ready to go. So all they've simply had to do is go through the hurdles of getting their rights back, proceeding through the right process so they own all the rights and their names attached on everything they do with Xbox and PlayStation, and then finally produce the game. Now in that time, I'm hoping that they've struck a deal and FunLabs have managed to update the game currently with more recent PC content. Otherwise, we will be looking at a game that is a year behind the PC version. I'm hoping to get some of these answers with an email and try and get some questions answered from the lead developers themselves, who are a pretty small team, starting out as just 2 of them working on the game, and they haven't really increased that much. The port team is pretty big, and they've got a long history of working on different games, including the Walking Dead collection from last year or 2 years ago, Transformers for the Cybertron, Prototype 1 and 2 bundle, as well as their biggest one. They've pretty much worked on every single Cabela's game. Let's not focus too much on Duck Dynasty. So, with a good history from the porting team working on games over a long period of time, developers that have been pretty honest and open as much as they can be with how things have happened, I'm excited about what's going to happen with Stranded Deep coming to console, where it's much needed some more choice in survival games. So that's the history of Stranded Deep so far. The game's had lots and lots of updates in that time, and it's currently sitting on a mostly positive score, within the last 30 days a little bit more mixed. Stranded Deep is not going to be the multiplayer survival experience you may expect. It seems to be the thing now that everyone wants to play co-op or play with friends, because you've all played Ark, Conan, maybe even a little bit of The Forest together. But Stranded Deep so far has not managed to implement it fully. They've just added split screen mode, I do believe, and that looks like that's partially down to the console development that they even thought of it. And while they have got a co-op mode some sort working, it isn't fleshed out enough yet, and it's one of the things they're going to be working on in the future. Reading a bunch of reviews and collating what I see as time and time coming up again, is that Stranded Deep is a good survival experience for the first few playthroughs. Each new location being procedurally generated can spice things up and makes it difficult traversing and travelling from island to island looking for resources. New creatures have been added, new ways to survive, and new items have come along in that time. But it does suffer from, at the moment, a lack of end game. There is simply nothing to do with the resources you've gathered other than survive. With the forest offering you creatures that will come and attack you in your base, Stranded Deep doesn't have that, with it being much more realistic, focused on just the creatures and making sure that your health is okay. The base building is pretty simple, and it's what you'd kind of expect from a game like this. So if you really love building and like the idea of this just lone survival, you're going to really enjoy it. Also possibly if you like exploring for the sake of it and experiencing everything the game could have, or trying to find new biomes and new islands, again Stranded Deep's going to be really good. But there are them couple negatives. But at the moment, with the game still being in early access and the devs saying that they're going to be adding a lot more story content to the game, I can see that definitely improving in the next year. By the time it comes out with early access, I'm fully predicting that Stranded Deep will have a meaningful story mode attached, and hopefully by then they'll have worked on enough of the multiplayer aspects, not just to give us co-op, but to give us proper, maybe, servers to run and play on. We don't necessarily need 30 players, but something like The Forest where you can have at least 4 of your friends, or maybe even more, that would be absolutely amazing. So, don't think of Stranded Deep like Ark, think of it more like The Forest. You can even make your own custom maps with Stranded Deep, and I'm presuming this is going to be something that you'll be able to see on Xbox and PlayStation 2. So these offer more unique ways to play if you are worried about content not being there enough. Now this is something only on PC at the moment, with no confirmation this will come to Xbox or PlayStation, but I definitely think this will be needed to keep players maybe invested a little bit more in the game. It's fairly simple for what it does, so I couldn't imagine it's too much of a problem putting this on console as well. And it's quite fun being able to place and move things around however much you pretty much want it to be. So I really hope this feature does make it into the Xbox or PlayStation versions too. Creating and making your own survival world to then go and play, I think that's a really good unique experience that I've not seen much in any other game. Ark probably comes closest with its custom generated maps, but it takes a lot of know-how to really get that working right. Why not build yourself your own mountain range of doom and then smooth it all off so it doesn't look like something out of some Home Alone sequel, and then smooth it all off to make it a little bit more rounded, a little bit more friendlier. So you get the idea. One of the features that I really hope does make it to the Xbox and PlayStation version. So the PC version currently has split screen, like I mentioned earlier, only, and it's got the various things you come to expect. A hardcore mode, you can turn enemies off, you can make the game a little bit easier or harder, etc, etc. So, Stranded Deep, if it's got some of these features, I think, and the promise of content to come like Endgame and maybe possibly full multiplayer in the future, I think it's definitely got a good place on Xbox and PlayStation. And even without them features, well, this game's not going to be that expensive. If it's going to be the same price it was when Telltale were publishing it, it's still only going to be about $20. It's only $10.99 on Steam. I do believe it was a bit expensive at one point earlier on in its life. So, you're not expecting hundreds and thousands of hours in this game, but I certainly think you could play it for a good 30 or 40, maybe get up to 60 or 70 if you're a real survival fan. I'm sure there's other players that have spent loads of hours in this game, but I think that's about the limit at the moment, unless we get some more endgame coming in the future. So that's what I want to talk about as well, putting this in perspective against other games that have come out with either similar price points. This is still very much an indie project, it's still very much a small team, whereas other developers have maybe branched out a little bit, hired more people. Beam Team really kept this just between themselves, hence why it's taken so long for the game to fully come out. So it's going to have problems and issues for sure, just like every survival game that has launched on Xbox and PlayStation in the last couple of years that I've covered. I can't really think of one survival game that hasn't had some problems. Whether or not they're significant, it just depends on the game. But I can't see Stranded Deep being that bad. I think the developers have got a good port team behind it. The time they've had extra almost to updates, and hopefully that means that's going into the console version. This could be a real winner for people that enjoy this type of game. So there you go, folks, a little bit more information about what's happening. Expect a release date to drop any day now. I really am expecting it to drop, and I reckon it will be a surprise. I reckon we're going to get a stealth launch, a release date, a pre-order, and bam, a week later it'll be ready to go. You'll be able to try Stranded Deep for yourself. I am going to start doing a Let's Play on PC. I want to get some experience with this game before it comes to Xbox and PlayStation, so that I can give you guys tutorials and guides on how to play. So make sure, for the best in survival game news, you've got me locked down, you're subscribed. Go and check out my Mixer channel to see me stream a lot of these games. Come join my Discord, and I'll see you rat bags very soon.